Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rahma. Michael is the author of Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
And the truth that is rooted within me.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with Dr. Michael Ryce, the Forgiveness Doctor, and we are live from Heartland. Hello, Michael. He's down in the Teaching Center.
Hey, Jeanie. How are you?
Awesome.
Good. Is there anybody in the chat room asking questions? Anybody on the phone at this moment?
Not yet. Too early in the show, I guess. We have Dr. Kimmel.
Dr. Kimmel with us today? Hello,
Yes,
Dr.
I'm
Kim.
here. Hello, hello.
How you be, young man?
Doing quite well, thank you.
Awesome. Well, we are live from Heartland, and we've got a crew sitting here ready to go to work. Another level. I know that since yesterday nothing's happened for anybody. Right? Are you still processing? Cool. Well, let's hear from the crew. You're live at an intensive. We're doing our show a little differently than we usually do today. Instead of questions and answers and call-ins and such, we won't be doing those things. We're just going to do straight live. You'll be in the first hour of an intensive today. We're going to move in the direction of communication work. And we'll first start out and check in with everybody. And Richard just volunteered that he's in process. That's awesome. What's happening for you, Richard? Anything to share? No. You're just in process. Okay. And it feels... Okay, well, that says it. So for everybody who's done the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop previously, we don't exactly use that word to describe it, but healing is not Dr. Feelgood. Stuff's got to move. As it goes in, it has to come out. And so our goal is to open the space for everything that needs to be dealt with to be dealt with. So anybody else that we can check in with, anything to share? Renee, I heard you had another major breakthrough today. Anything to share about what happened? Cool. Well, let me come sit beside you. Let's hear about it. What's happening? I'm taking a chance with this. I don't even know what happened.
Well, since we did that breathing last night, I didn't have
Nothing coming through? Okay, let me get this closer. Do you want to just hold that closer?
So this morning I woke up in that motion, that healing motion, healing. And I was very happy and very rested. Still things coming out inside of me. And I had perhaps maybe here. Is it better? Okay.
Yeah.
So because of the issues that we spoke about yesterday after me and my daughter, with her father and I discussed what she was saying, and then we deeper into myself and made that. Okay. Technical issues. Here we are back. So I was able to
So I was able to talk about it, and I asked David in the morning because I started doing. I woke up and I said my worksheet today. I was very clear in that. Yeah, I was ready in my heart, and then I was able to go to about creating a space of love for healing for Oswaldo, even though I don't see him, and he's very difficult to reach. Yeah, with his father. So as I was talking about it and asking for help how to do my worksheet, I had to, again, these fears, and a lot of my body, I felt I was dizzy. I felt the difference, but I was able to touch it. I was able to recognize the truth that, yes, it was very painful for me to divorce. And, things are coming up now. And, that I did like him a lot. And we did have a lot of things in common. And I recognized it was this pattern of violence that was in my breaking up, that I created that violence. I created that uncomfort in the relationship, and I didn't have the patience, and I didn't know how to do better. And I thought, and I just behaved as I unconsciously had it in my dreams of being nasty and demanding and no patience. And I couldn't see, how sweet you are. I couldn't see that you will never let me. I couldn't see the truth. I couldn't see the truth.
To your blood, perhaps for the first time in who knows how long, a sane human mind is being some abilities to heal and to move through whatever all that's about. That's pretty awesome. Congratulations. All right. Yeah.
And I love in the kitchen preparing. I love being in the kitchen and preparing with the girls. And this day every okay, this is big one too.
Fabulous. Sounds like an awesome piece of work. And perhaps some communication with Oswaldo might be appropriate in cleaning some of that up, because who knows what he's hanging out with as to, what were his dynamics. And, of course, we tend to pull together relationships out of matching bags of garbage. And If we don't have the tools, what happens is everybody trades bags of garbage, and the bags of garbage just get bigger instead of, oh, here's our opportunity to empty the bags of garbage. So what we're looking to do is to simply learn how to empty the bags of garbage. Excellent. Cool. Anybody else have any report? Anything exciting happening? Good things to report?
Yeah, the still point yesterday, the still point breathing we did yesterday, I released a lot of stuff. And this morning, and also I realized how I don't take care of myself. And this morning, I had finally recuperated from the travel and all of that. I had had enough sleep, and I woke up and I went for a gorgeous swim in the lake and just took care of my body. It was amazing. You know how you can, when you do spinning, you actually clean out the energy of your body. If you're just spinning round and round on the grass, well, I did that in the water. I keep doing that in the water. And I didn't get dizzy at all, and there was nobody around to help me in case, I was perfect. And I don't know, just have good things to report, that it was about nurturing and taking care of myself. And on the topic of communications, there's something that I'm going to request your help in, and that is to be able to deal with the travel agent and be able to find a way to have her be accountable. But in order to do that, I need to heal whatever is inside me that didn't allow me to do it in the first place. So communication.
Okay, so have you done any workings around that issue with the travel agent yet? Yeah, I'd start on that one. That's definitely going to be first order of business, is what do I need to deal with in me. And for those who are new to the topic that we're talking about, the whole idea of forgiveness in the Aramaic language has nothing to do with letting somebody else off the hook because there's something painful or traumatic happening inside of me. The whole idea is to be willing to embrace whatever's painful and traumatic inside of me. And, of course, how can I tell if there's something painful or traumatic inside of me? Am I feeling something painful or traumatic? That's how I tell. It's real easy to tell. Although what we generally tend to do is we tend to, when we're in pain or trauma, is we tend to deny ownership of it and want to blame somebody else. Well, today we're going to start to move in the direction of how do I take ownership? And then the forgiveness process, instead of being about letting somebody else off the hook, is I'm going to do my work to clean out what's inside of me to move forward in my world and in my healing process. And again, it's not always Dr. Feelgood, but the layers peel out and life moves forward. So anyone on the topic, and again, for those who were with our show yesterday, we moved through some information, and then as Renee mentioned, we did still point breathing last night as a group. And today we're going to move into the topic of communication. Did you hear what I think I said? We won't, while we're on the phone or while we're on the show, we won't be able to do the whole communication process. However, we did cover the steps of communication. So when the show cuts off, if you want more information about that, there is a show in the archives, and I believe it was maybe 10 days ago. I don't know, maybe Jeanie, if you're with us right now, you could look that one up and put a link to it. And there's the complete 7 steps of responsibility communication. By the way, does anybody else have anything to report before we get into that about your purpose statement from yesterday? Yesterday's topic was purpose, personal power, and commitment. Anyone have anything to share? Do you have a statement to share with us?
You don't have to say this.
No? Okay.
That's what I have to share.
Good. Cool.
What I speak about for years.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, we're here to support you in that. And so what was just shared that by one of the young ladies, is it all right if I share your name?
I do.
But I'm saying it's all right if I share that on the air. Okay. You've perhaps heard Dayu on the phone previously. She's a young lady from India who now lives in Miami. A young lady from India who's a Canadian who now lives in Miami. Now there's a combination. and just flew in yesterday from Lima, Peru. Richard and I made a trip up last night or the night before last to Springfield to pick Dayu up. the airport. And so she was just reporting this, that she's seeing the fulfillment of a dream, really getting at the level of these tools and this understanding, and being able to go back to Miami and share with us. We had an awesome workshop when we were in Miami, or actually we were in Heartland, Florida, about 2 weeks ago. And it seems like that was about 2 years ago now. But we were down there keynoting at an alternative medical conference, and they had set up first to go and speak at a center where they work with, in particular, sexually abused children. And there are people from different arts. There were a couple of people there from Juilliard. I don't know what others, but artists who come and volunteer and work with children with art. And it was really awesome. Dayu set it up, and so she's here, and Renee is here. And it was the first time I've ever done it the way that we did the workshop, because we had 2 workshops going simultaneously. We were in a room where there was a divider down the middle of the room, and I'm doing Why Is This Happening to Me Again in English on one side of the room, and Renee is on the other side of the room doing Why Is This Happening to Me Again in Spanish. And it was just, the energy was absolutely awesome, and we're looking forward to getting back to that center in Miami. Tell me, it's La Familia, En Familia, down on Chrome Avenue in Miami. So right. Yeah, lots of community family support. So we'll be playing with them. We're going to be touring Florida next winter, and so we'll be back at En Familia in Miami, and I assume that our Spanish translator, Renee, will be there. By the way, we do have a Spanish page on the website now, if you are Spanish-speaking. We actually have the name, and my Spanish is very poor, but we do have porqueotra.com. So you can go to that website, and you'll find the several translations that Renee has done, and also our friends out in Las Vegas. We have several of the worksheets in Spanish. The book is there, available in Spanish, and the folks out in Las Vegas. Thank you, Claudia, and your whole crew, and Stephen, Dr. Andraki. They're reviewing the Spanish translation and upgrading it. It's been on the website for, it was the first translation we had done, so the book's been on the website too for 15, 17, 18 years, something like that. I'm not even sure how long it's been. It's been a long time. And so Stephen and his wife Claudia are supporting us in upgrading that translation so that it gets clearer and clearer and putting forward the ideas of the work in Spanish. That'd be awesome. So now we just, everybody, you heard it. Let's make sure. Yeah, let's get this on record.
I'm thinking of translating Dr. Michael Ryce's book into Hindi if I can figure out how to get the Hindi script going on the computer.
I'm sure that people in India who speak Hindi have computers, right? Then Hindi's available. That would be awesome. Yeah. Well, yes, there are translators, but actually I'll see if I can find it. I did a thing a few years ago where I put Why Is This Happening to Me Again to a language translator and then put it through several different languages. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I see. Okay. Cool. Well, we'll see how that unfolds. So anyone else? Thoughts? Questions? David made watermelon juice this morning. That was awesome and delicious. And now is it the V8? We're having, for those who are not here, we're doing some fasting. We started fasting this morning with watermelon juice. And we've now got a V8 that we make fresh from all fresh raw vegetables. And it's awesome. So welcome. Anyone else into the chair before we say again? Okay, good question. Question comes forward. Why do we do the juicing? Well, one of the most inefficient ways to get energy into the body is by eating food. There are estimates that it takes as much as 60 or more % of the energy of the food that you eat just to digest it. When you take raw foods and juice them, what happens is the nutrients become much more available much more quickly, so little energy is needed for digestion. And so that energy that isn't needed for digestion can go into cleansing and detoxifying. So it tends to set up a detoxification process and accelerates cleansing. It accelerates the entry of nutrients into the cell and helps to clean the cell out. And, of course, being all fresh and raw, there's no, when people cook food, first thing that goes are the enzymes. And as much as 75 is estimated again, as much as 75% of digestion takes place in the first 20 minutes in the body if the food is raw. And this just accelerates the whole thing. So it gets the nutrients to the cell faster. If you look back into every spiritual tradition, fasting has always been a part of it. In fact, you might remember a case where the disciples came to Yeshua and said, we've been out there healing people and teaching the work, and we got this one issue, and we just can't get it to break. And Yeshua's response to them is that type of issue only comes out through prayer and fasting. Now, of course, prayer in Aramaic has nothing to do with putting your order in the cosmic gift catalog. Prayer in Aramaic means to set a trap for God. The human form is a custom-made device to reflect the energy of love into the world. If you doubt that, just go hold a newborn that hasn't been tainted with all of the world's garbage. You'll know exactly what the human body's for. And so what he was saying there is, first of all, fulfill your function. Function as love in the world, and then do some fasting. And as you do some fasting, things tend to break down. There's a tradition in naturopathic medicine, and I could not point to any form of documentation for this, but there's a tradition in naturopathic medicine that says that the part of the brain where the ego sits, where the ego functions from, kind of the seat of the ego, is fed directly from the stomach. When you stop putting food into the stomach, that thing starts to crack, starts to break down. It weakens. So the structure of non-being, the structure of hostility or fear, starts to crack and fall apart. You don't find warriors fasting very much. Why? Because they naturally become gentle. They naturally become human when they fast. What they do is they eat lots of things that have got lots of adrenaline in them, things that have been killed and tortured, as many people in our culture do, and that chemistry is transferred to humans. If you look at our culture, by and large, if you do the least bit of research, unless you are most conscious about what you eat, especially in the animal realm, you're eating things that have been absolutely tortured beyond belief. If you don't believe me about that, I suggest that you view a video called Paradise Farm. It can give you some idea of how much torture what you're putting in your body goes through before it gets to you. And if you think about that, David was just telling me the other day, he was doing some research on something and came across information about mice and cats and how a cat will catch a mouse, but won't just eat it. And, it just makes so much sense. But the thesis that he came across was, why does the cat catch the mouse and then let it go, and catch the mouse and then let it go, and, kind of trap it and play with it, bat it around and let it go? It's because when the mouse is captured, the mouse is in terror. And when the cat allows it to go, catches it, the terror disappears. The fear chemistry disappears from its body. Well, now it's going to eat. The fear chemistry. The humans aren't that bright. If you've ever been in a slaughterhouse, and you think that animal doesn't know what's about to happen to it, and you watch that movie Paradise Farm, the way animals are slaughtered in this culture, it's shy of torture. Chemistry, we're putting through this structure. And of course, it's all energy. And I don't care whether the energy is the energy of fear in a human form or animal. If you put the energy of fear into your body, from dead flesh, fear that's been in there, you're buying fruit. You're putting frequency. And what you'll find is things change. And David's over there chewing his juice. One of the things that we offer, our food here is totally fresh and raw. And when we're eating solid food, what what we offer to people is you want to drink the food. In other words, you actually chew the food to the point where it's liquid before you swallow. First stage of digestion happens in the mouth. And if it doesn't happen in the mouth because you just, took 3 bites of something and used a quart of liquid to flush it down, then that food never properly digests. And then, so drink your food and then chew your juice. And the juice, the digestive process starts. Well, question. Anything else there from Jeanie? Okay. Tell her we said hi. Good. Oh yeah. The other topic that's just coming up in the background is that of chewing gum. If you think about the fact that chewing has a function, what would you think is the function of chewing? To let the body know there's something coming, right? What happens if 7 hours a day you chew, but you don't ever give your stomach food? Stomach says, I quit. I'm like, I don't believe these signals you're giving me. Chewing has a function. If you chew something but don't feed yourself, you're tricking your body into doing processes that Oh, yeah. It's a call for the body to start to send up digestive secretion. Yeah, chewing sends up digestive secretion. If you don't do anything to digest, a lot of people end up with a lot of ulcers with irritable bowel syndrome, all because they excessive acid. They didn't have to work. So, communication, responsibility communication becomes our topic. And as you look at the idea of communication in our culture, so-called communication is usually used to do things like control, usually used to get what you want. And we offer that that's not the purpose of communication. If you use communication for that purpose, then what occurs is that no communication takes place. And communication is an energetic process. We've laid out on many occasions the whole idea of this so-called body-mind unit being an energy system. And as such, we work on energetic exchange from system to system. And we offer that words, of course, are the tools we use, by and large, not the only tool. There are many other tools, but words are a key to how we communicate. And so we offer a definition of a word as a tool of communication. Everybody here, does that make sense? That a word could be reasonable definition of a word as a tool of communication? So if words are tools of communication, obviously there's an interaction happening between two. So in this case, you as a group are functioning as one, and I'm the other, and you're being kind enough to listen. So words, tools of communication, indicative of an interaction between two or more. If that's a reasonable definition, then what I invite you to notice is that right now there are words running in your head. And those words aren't being communicated to anyone outside of you. If words are tools of communication, indicative of an interaction between two or more, who's in there with you if there are words running in your head? And I would offer that who's in there with us is our whole genetic history. Everything we've ever experienced is stored in the way of frequency within our structure. And recognizing that, then we hold that past stored in this carbon-based memory system has always got a meaning for what's taking place, for what's happening within us. And that past replays its content over and over and over again. And if we believe what it has to say, then we believe that the past is accurate about the present. And I'd offer that the past is never accurate about the present. The only thing that's accurate about the present is the present. And so what we're looking to do is recognize the real value and the real tool of communication, or purpose, I should say, of communication. And that is, it is a tool for transferring one person's reality into the mind of another person. If we use it for any other purpose, then communication doesn't work very well. And projection communication basically says that whatever the reality is that's going on in my life, whatever my who's in there with me is saying must be true about you. So if you and I interact and a reality comes up in me, my who's in there with me is giving me an explanation that I think is true about you. Do you suppose that if you have a past and your past informs you from the past about me, that it's likely to be true about me? Not highly likely. Has anybody here ever been accused of saying something you've never said, of doing something you've never done? Has anybody ever had that? Let's see. For those who've had it happen, if you keep your hand up, and when I get to your number, if you would put your hand down. It's happened once, twice, 3, 4, 5. Infinity. What happened? How does that occur? Well, when I have a reality come up in me, it comes from what's firing in my brain cell structure. If I've never interviewed from the perspective of truth the content of my brain cell structure, I likely have lots of frauds and lots of lies in there. How can you tell if you've got a fraud or a lie within your brain cell structure? Are you capable physiologically of producing any form of hostility or fear? If you can produce any form of hostility or fear, then your mind holds lots of lies, lots of things that aren't true. And when you interact with someone and they bring those things up in you, if you use communication to control, to abuse, to get what you want, then you'll talk out of your past, out of the content of your mind, as though the content of your mind is true about somebody else. So when we are accused of something that we never said, of saying something we never said, doing something we never did, what's happening is we've triggered the content of someone else's brain cell structure, and out of that story, they make up something about that. As Renee was just sharing with us a few minutes ago, the realization that she was brought up in a household where women were supposed to be very demanding, controlling. Is that an accurate interpretation? Did I get that clearly? And so you can see now how with that demanding and controlling, there wasn't much space for the man you were married to live the life that he wanted to live with you, and that you really wanted as well, because you had realities informing you of something that wasn't true, and that didn't serve you really truly living human life. So when someone triggers on us a certain set of brain cells, and we're sure that the pictures our minds hold are true about them, what happens is we play this game of projection communication. You made me. And when you start shifting around and using communication for its real purpose, then what happens is, instead of using words to try to convince somebody else that what's going on in your mind is true about them, you use words to communicate what's going on in your mind as though it's true about you. And if it holds something painful for you, through that form of communication, you can enlist support for healing, instead of trying to convince others that your reality is true about them. The output of the human mind is your reality. Rarely for human beings do our realities match actuality, what's actually occurring. And so we want to move from projection communication, the kind of communication that says, you made me. Anybody here ever said, you made me angry, you made me afraid, you made me sad? Now, something happens when you do that. Almost everyone in the culture has 4 files, so to speak, in their mind in common. And those files were formed out of trying to take responsibility for someone else's reality and fix it. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, have you ever watched a 3-year-old and mom and dad maybe just had a big fight? There's dad sitting in tears. And the 3-year-old goes over to dad. The 3-year-old doesn't have a clue what's going on in the bigger world, doesn't know what's happening. But the 3-year-old goes over and tries to console dad and fix it for him. Have you ever watched that happen, or maybe remember trying to do that or having it done for you by your child? And, of course, the 3-year-old coming to the parent who's in trauma over a relationship issue, not having a clue as to what's going on, can't change that reality for the parent, right? And so the child at 3, 4, 5, not understanding the bigger picture, has a tendency to form files in their minds that contain conclusions based out of, I tried to fix it and I couldn't. And for most everyone, those 4 files go like this. It's hopeless. Like, I should be all powerful. I should have been able to fix this for my parents. It's hopeless. And I tried as hard as I couldn't do it, so I am helpless. I should have been able to fix it, therefore it must be my fault. And the fact that being my fault and I couldn't change it, I must be a failure. So around trying to take responsibility for someone else's reality, most people hold it's hopeless, it's helpless, it's my fault, I'm a failure. Now, what do you suppose when you use communication with your partner? It is based in projection. You made me angry. What you just did with that projection communication is you communicated to your partner that they're responsible for what's going on in your mind, and by God, they better fix it. What's that going to resonate for that partner? Resonate those 4 files: hopeless, helpless, fault, and failure. Guess what happens when conscious mind? Now, the 3-year-old didn't have a clue what they were forming, and they have no recall of forming it, but it's their solidly in mind. What do you suppose happens to that 3-year-old when guilt, fault, blame, failure, hopeless, helpless is resonating? They give up being, and they leave. People leave. Now, they may stay physically. I've worked with people who are married or called themselves married, 50, 60 years. The first year, the person left the relationship. They called themselves married, but they've lived under the same roof for 50 years. They were only married for a year. The marriage ended 49 years ago. When people emotionally leave, the relationship is over. Now you've got a relationship with the chef. And when you recognize that, you have the opportunity to begin to heal. One of the major steps in being able to heal is to be able to utilize what we call responsibility communication instead of projection communication. You listen to the average person who, when they're in some form of turmoil or pain or trauma, their whole conversation is about how something or somebody else did it to them. Somebody else is responsible for what's going on in their lives. You made me angry. You made me sad. You made me afraid. You failed me. You. And projection communication, the signal that projection communication is happening is it's really simple to observe yourself when you do that. And that is, you have some form of pain or turmoil. And then we start to talk about the person for somebody else. Now, if I were, didn't get canonized in Scriptures. Yeshua was talking to the disciples, and he says to them, you're like a bunch of little children running around in the street. Look what you did to me, blaming everybody else. Responsibility communication, instead of being about, I have a painful reality in me that I would like to support healing, becomes, I have a painful reality in me, it's all your fault, you better change it, you better fix it. So there are 7 steps to changing that dynamic from projection to responsibility. And I've actually got a letter here that I'd like to share before we actually move to the steps. The show will probably be over before we get very far into the steps. So you can look up the archive. I don't know, maybe Jeannie's found it, and or maybe she can put a link in the chat room if anybody wants to check it out. Or you can go to the archives. It's within the last 10 or 15 days that we did the responsibility communication and the 7 steps. But this letter really speaks to what responsibility communication would look like. So this is a young man who actually came to Heartland, about 15 years ago. He's someone who had been in alcohol treatment for several years, had gone through detoxification programs, was really trying to get off of drugs, and he came here and had some pretty significant challenges when he first came here. He now has a child that I believe, I just got a picture from him last week, a child, I believe, 6 now. Since coming here, he's entered into and creating an awesome relationship and parenting with this child in a way that's just so conscious and so awesome, and dealing with issues in his family of alcohol. And he's given me permission to share this letter. But he went home from an intensive, and he's really been doing his work for several years. And so this is his communication to his father about the denial in their family system and how it's impacted his life in the past and how it's currently impacting him, and his effort to open responsible communication with his father to clean that up, to bring the whole family system to another level. And so it's a pretty awesome demonstration of responsibility communication. So this is a letter from this young man to his father. It reads like this. Hi, Dad. Thank you for opening the door for conversation. I would like to talk with you to clear ever more space for our relationship. My commitment is to always be responsible for my own limited views on reality and refrain from projecting my feelings onto you or anyone else. So to first answer the question, was I ticked off at you? The answer is no, I was not. Honestly, I was very conscious of what was going on for me, and that wasn't it. What was going on? Well, as you know, I do a lot of spiritual work every day, meditation, prayer, worksheets, etc. The goal of that work is simple. I hold it to be true that we are all love and that love is our essential nature, and all we need to do is forgive all the thoughts or energies that are less than love, and we will come into a full expression of the incredible people that we are. Sometimes, often, this process is not Dr. Feelgood. It requires real courage to consistently be responsible for how I feel and how I see the world, others, and myself. As you know, it takes courage to take responsibility so that I can heal with God's help, feelings that are painful and may have been hidden for decades. So yesterday, perhaps because I've been doing a lot of processing lately, some of my old painful realities came up in my face. I admire your perceptiveness because you picked up the fact that a lot of hostility was up for me, and I would like to ask for your support to share and heal it. I think the trigger for me yesterday was the glass of red wine next to you on the deck. I saw it, and I reacted like Pavlov's dog. In spite of myself, I was filled with this hostility from the past. I share this with you now for 2 reasons. To process my feelings, to be responsible and let go, so that whatever you do or say in the future, I will be able to hold a space of love in myself when we are together physically or just in my thoughts. This is not about manipulating you or getting you to change your behavior. It's about continuing to create an honest relationship with you especially in areas where honesty did not exist before. The second reason is because I owe you the truth. As part of your support team, I owe it to you to speak to you about the things that I see as potential blind or trouble spots. I've been bothered recently by the thought that my sister, in a significant way, has been a more faithful daughter to you than I have been a son. She spoke her honest thoughts to you specifically about drinking, regardless of what feelings and reaction it might trigger. Her intentions may or may not have been loving ones, but my intentions are loving and supportive for both of us. Dad, for years, Matt, his brother, Matt and I, have treasured the opportunity to go to you with our life's challenges. I will continue to turn to you. We also know and have shared that we do it during the day, preferably a work day, because you're just not the same person at night or on Sunday afternoon. This is because of alcohol. There is a shift in you after you've had 2 or 3 drinks. Not every time, maybe, but certainly sometimes. There is often a strongly sarcastic energy, sometimes only toward the TV. It comes out, and it is not present in you when you are sober. Why did this glass of wine bring so much hostility in me yesterday? I can only guess that it has to do with depression over many years. I've come to recognize this as a family model. It's been passed from generation to generation. I noticed it on the phone when I was offering Mom support in her effort to stop drinking. She admitted she felt angry at the fact that I even brought it up. Imagine that after all I've been through with detox and AA, I have been completely humbled in this area, and it's still not permitted in our family culture for me to offer support to Mom in an effort to stop drinking. That happened 2 days ago, and it brought up some tender feelings for me. I see it in comments from Nanny regarding the book about the Irish and Southie. She told Colleen, quote, "That never happened. Nobody ever did that." This was a Pulitzer Prize-winning autobiography of a child's memories. Of course it happened. This is how our brains work, though. If something is painful, we think we can make it go away, even by condemning the thought of it. Could you imagine saying to Nanny when you were a child, "Mom, I'd like to have a serious talk with you about the way you talk to Dad. It really brings up pain for me when you say harsh things to him." I don't think you ever had that safer relationship with either of your parents, which we now have the blessing and the opportunity to do with you. I honor you and Mom for creating a family structure that is so loving that I'm now sending you this letter. You and Mom have done incredible work for our whole family line. Also know that our relationship and our family is more important to me than any issue. I'm in it forever. And as a friend once said to me, in it to win it. We can win as a family by always growing in love. In too many families, these things get taken literally to the grave. I can remember being a child and even mentioning a word about you and Mom drinking and being harshly treated for bringing up that subject. It was taboo and not my place as a child to talk about. I learned that it wasn't safe to discuss. When I got older, I learned that I could express ideas that seemed unsafe by using sarcasm. Now I know the devastating effects on my own body of using sarcasm. The word actually comes from a term that means to tear flesh. It is as destructive to the body as smoking is, I suspect. So I don't do it anymore when I'm conscious of my behavior. You only need to listen to Uncle Bob on any given holiday to notice how sarcasm is a means of expressing hostility that we were raised to suppress. So that's part of what was going on for me yesterday. I would like to talk with you about it in a positive space. Also, in a general way, I commit to getting out of your face. I noticed and didn't like my own behavior at the beach house telling you you have to change if you want to be healthy at 77. That was a stupid approach to you and not who I want to be. I promise to work toward always giving you the space to do and be what you choose, as I now have the space to do and be as I choose. I guess this is about letting go of resentment that I created in myself because I felt I couldn't be honest with you in a safe way. If it's not appropriate for me to be around you in a certain state, I will make that choice for myself and find something to do. I imagine this statement may bring up some tender feelings for you. So, notice I'm always on your support team. I'm always committed to being your son to the best of my ability. So if you're thinking something like, Ron, I know drinking is not the healthiest choice for me. I've thought about stopping, but I think life works fine with it and I enjoy it, then I can support your right to choose and begin to truly mind my own business, knowing that you know where I stand and being free from pretending it's not been a factor in my life and our relationship, because it's been a huge factor. I'm now 33. I'm responsible for me. You're responsible for you. In that context, I'm ready to start again and support you in any way I can. So that's what responsibility communication looks like. And knowing this family, each time I read that letter, and knowing the things that this young man has been through to bring healing to his family and to be now raising a family clear of drugs, clear of alcohol, and with just the awesome presence of human life with 3 members of the family. It always brings up some tender to me when I read it. Julie.
Yeah. I like the fact that I know this man, and he named his daughter Amazing Grace. And he made such wonderful progress, and he was so determined to live a different life. Just so determined. Well, yeah, when he first came, he just had so many issues around drinking and his family and wanting to communicate more effectively and just wanting to live a different life, just absolutely live a different life. And he was just a very sincere, just a really sincere, sweet energy man. And he was also looking for a relationship that he could grow with, so that was another thing that was on his plate. But he did take his time finding that. And he was so excited when his child was born because, he said, I'm going to call her Grace. And by that, we mean Amazing Grace. So, I have a lot of sweet memories of him.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the big success stories of Heartland when I think back to what it was like when he first came here. And, we've seen him. He's been back 3 or 4 times to intensives. I've been up to the East Coast where he lives and presented. We actually stayed at his house last time we were up in the Boston area. It's just amazing to watch what happens. So responsibility communication. Any thoughts? That bring any questions up? Jeanie, are there any thoughts in the chat room at this point? We've got about 7 minutes left, and so we're probably on the air. We'll not move into the actual steps of responsibility communication because that is available in an archive. So that's it.
Reference to what you just said about being emotionally married. How does it look like? What is it? What does that mean?
Emotionally married? Well, I think we could do some communication. Did you hear what I think I said? Because I don't think those words were said. But emotionally married to me would be 2 people who come together, each one having taken responsibility for a human life and owning one. It always amazes me how people walk through life with all kinds of hostilities, fears, rages, griefs, and pain, bags and bags of garbage, and they walk into a relationship and expect to create this awesome conflict-free relationship. And then, when with their bags and bags of conflict, it isn't an awesome conflict-free relationship, they want to blame their partner. I'm out of here. I'm leaving because I brought all this garbage in here, and it's all your fault that I've got all this garbage. And so a real true relationship would be one where 2 people realize who they are as human beings. And again, for those who might be on the radio show, it's really easy to establish what a human being is. Just hold a newborn child. You know exactly what a human being is. It is such an awesome presence of love. And each of us is made of the same stuff. And each of us who's carrying around what we call a body today probably has some other stuff in it too. as that letter just described. You know, that young man's history went back into Ireland, and you look at the things that have happened in that culture. You look at, you know, if you've seen the film The Streets of New York, you see a lot of that expressing. And so, or Gangs of New York, the Gangs of New York. And, you know, you look at what we carry around. And so emotionally married, to me, would be two people who come together knowing who they are, probably not 100% in the experience of that, but willing to go to 100% of the experience of that, and willing to leave behind all of the insane dynamics and behaviors of their previous generation. You know, all the threats, all the fear, all the manipulation, all the intimidation. You'll notice what this young man did with this letter. I mean, he could have gotten into his anger with Dad, and why didn't you, and you were this, and you drank, and I was abused. But, you know, people have responsibility. I have reality. And I'm here to clean up my reality. So, to me, a true emotional marriage would be one where two people know who they are as love and are willing to enter into relationship responsibly and to own and clean up those realities that are less than love, to create a space of support, holding the space, using the tools, move through whatever belongs in a human life. What never belonged in a human life? Hostility and fear never belong in a human life. It's become the tradition of our culture. So much so that human life has almost disappeared from planet Earth. Almost disappeared. Now, if you look at the leadership in our world, I talked the other day in the class about two men who started a project called the Civility Project. And the Civility Project invites people to make a commitment to go into civil discourse with each other. And in particular, one of the things that these two men did is they lobbied Congress and they lobbied every governor in the United States to make a pledge of civility, that when they interacted with an opponent, that they would be civil in their discourse with that opponent. They lobbied for 2 years, between Congress and the governors of the states, about 585 people. And they finally gave up the project. You know how many of those 585 people they were willing, act like human beings, willing to sign the civility pledge? 3. 3 out of 585 so-called human beings were willing to say in our political discourse, if I meet with someone who doesn't agree with me, I will act civilly. I mean, when you really think about that from the point of view, you know, my offering when it comes to behavior, a good measuring stick for behavior, is if you've got a newborn in your hands that's facing a situation you're facing today, if the newborn wouldn't do it, you probably shouldn't be doing it. How insane has our culture become? Now, from within the container of hostility and rage and fear, well, you know, that's just the way it is. Excuse me, folks, that doesn't support human life. It's time for us to get human life back on Earth. Respons-abiltiy Communication and similar relationships where we own what's going on inside of us. And when it's less than love, we're willing to hold that feeling because it's to express your world. And what happens when you enter into that work? It's not an easy work. There are lots of excuses for not doing it. But what happens when we enter into that